She knew someone was watching her. Not just online, but outside her window, in her backyard, and eventually, right inside her life. The messages came from fake accounts. The videos showed her in her own home. And no matter how many times she called for help, the danger only got closer. Ellie Weik did everything right. And still she vanished. Welcome, this is Crime Uncovered, where every case has a story, and the truth is often stranger and darker than fiction. If you haven't subscribed yet, kindly do so to stay updated on the latest crimes we uncover. Westchester, Ohio, is a quiet suburban town where people usually feel safe. But in the summer of 2018, that sense of peace was shattered by a heartbreaking tragedy. It started with a young woman whose world was filled with creativity and kindness, and ended in a way no one could have imagined. Her name was Ellie Weik, but everyone called her Ellie. At just 23 years old, she had already left a mark on everyone she met. Ellie had recently moved into her own place, living independently with her pet gecko, Gale. It was a big step for her, but she was excited to build a life on her own terms. Originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Ellie moved to Ohio with her family in search of a fresh start. And for a while things seemed to be going well. She had just earned her cosmetology license, and she dreamed of opening her own salon one day. Her passion for creativity was endless. She loved art, music, dancing, writing, and being outdoors. Her friends would describe her as a burst of sunshine, someone who smiled with her whole face and always brought good energy wherever she went. She was the kind of person who could wear neon lipstick and make it look amazing. She spent weekends scrapbooking, planting flowers, or making jewelry, and she had a habit of doing these things in her best clothes, never afraid to get messy in style. Her mom, Tam, often said that Ellie had been this way since she was a child. Bright, joyful, free. But as the summer of 2018 rolled in, something began to change. The cheerful, expressive young woman started to seem distracted, nervous, and no one knew why at first. It wasn't until Ellie opened up to her close friends and family that the full picture started to come into focus. Someone was trying to reach her, in ways that felt more and more threatening. It began with random messages from unknown numbers. At first it seemed like spam. But the tone wasn't right. The messages were creepy, and whoever was behind them seemed to know too much. Details about her home, her schedule, even what she looked like at certain times. The messages came through Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and text, and the person always used fake usernames and burner numbers. The only thing consistent about them was how often they showed up. Ellie had dealt with weird messages before, but this felt different. It felt personal. Someone was watching her. And that realization would mark the beginning of a terrifying journey. What started as a few strange texts was about to take a horrifying turn, one that would bring Ellie face to face with someone from her past. Long before the disturbing messages began, Ellie had experienced a relationship that started with charm, but ended in silence. Back when Ellie was just 17, she met Michael Strauss. At the time, he seemed like the perfect fit. He was into the same artsy things Ellie adored: music, poetry, film. They talked about life, creativity, and all the things that made them feel alive. Ellie, being a naturally trusting and open person, saw him as someone she could connect with on a deep level. But not everything that sparkles is gold. Their relationship started to change. Michael's easygoing nature gave way to strange behavior. He was possessive, emotionally unstable, and always seemed to be hiding something. Ellie began to notice red flags, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. She eventually ended things and distanced herself completely. Over time, she erased him from her life, not knowing that he might be quietly doing the opposite. Years passed and Ellie moved on. But Michael never really let go. While she was working hard on becoming a hairdresser, enjoying weekends with friends, and building a life she loved, Michael was lurking in the shadows of her digital world. According to court records, Michael's personal life after their breakup was spiraling out of control. Between 2008 and 2018, he had been arrested multiple times: public indecency, identity theft, burglary, and drug possession. It wasn't just that he made bad choices. It was the pattern of escalation that made him truly dangerous. He even had a mental health evaluation and court-mandated treatment after one of his arrests for exposing himself in public. And yet, he kept slipping through the cracks. He lived quietly in the same general area as Ellie, just far enough away to avoid suspicion, but close enough to watch her life from a distance. In the months leading up to Ellie's disappearance, he had been creating fake social media accounts and burner numbers, using them to slide into her digital life, pretending to be different people, testing the waters, watching her reactions. He was patient, careful, calculated. But the obsession was growing stronger by the day. Then came the moment of realization. One night, while scrolling through a new Snapchat message, Ellie's heart dropped. The account used the name Mikey. She paused. That name didn't feel random. It felt familiar. She looked at the username again. The tone of the messages. The little things, like how he typed certain words. Then, suddenly, it hit her. She sent a message to her friend. Damn it. I know who it is. It was Michael Strauss. It had been years, but now she was certain. The cryptic messages, the disturbing videos, the feeling that someone was always one step behind her, it all pointed back to him. Ellie's world shifted in that moment from fear to terror. This wasn't a stranger. This was someone who had once held her hand. But just as Ellie began to piece things together, the person behind the screen was planning something that would go far beyond stalking. Once Ellie realized that her ex, Michael Strauss, was behind the strange accounts, her fear became full-blown dread. But still, part of her hoped she was wrong. Could someone really hold on to a grudge for that long? Could he have hidden behind a screen for months, playing games with her mind? Unfortunately, the answer was yes. The messages didn't stop, they got worse. Ellie began receiving disturbing videos, one of which was taken right outside her window. In the clip, someone sat at her kitchen table filming through the glass, watching her. The person even exposed themselves in the footage. It was terrifying. More videos followed, all taken from close distances, always aimed at Ellie, always when she was unaware. She was being watched. And whoever was doing it had been inside her space. Her best friend Hannah compared it to being hunted. It was like a twisted game, she said. Only it wasn't a game at all. It was real. And dangerous. Ellie went to the Westchester police with everything she had. Names. Screenshots. Usernames. Suspicious accounts. She even mentioned Mickey, and explained the possible link to Michael Strauss. The police filed a report. But that was about it. They advised her to take self-defense classes and avoid going out alone at night. While that might seem helpful on the surface, Ellie didn't feel safer. In fact, it only confirmed what she feared most. No one could stop him but her. Still, she tried to take control. Ellie signed up for defense lessons with her mom, kept her doors locked at all times, and began using tape on her curtains to keep people from peeking inside. Friends rotated sleepovers so she'd never be alone. It was exhausting. Meanwhile, the stalker seemed to grow more daring. Messages came through new numbers every time. Most traced back to untraceable burner apps or online phone services with fake area codes. Police told her it would take time to trace all the digital traffic. But time was not something Ellie had. Then came the most dangerous twist yet. One night, Ellie received a text from someone she believed was her online friend Nate, a guy she had been chatting with for a while and was supposed to meet that weekend. Nate messaged her. "I'm not bringing my phone. Is it cool if I just knock?" It was weird. Why would someone show up unannounced without a phone? Ellie hesitated. Her gut told her something was off. She replied that she didn't feel like meeting and preferred to stay home. He pushed again, asking if someone was with her. Ellie answered casually, "No, I'm alone. Just going to bed." But she wasn't talking to Nate. She was talking to Michael, again hiding behind a fake name. And now he knew, Ellie was home. Alone. Vulnerable. By the next morning, Ellie would vanish, and the terrifying mystery of her disappearance would grip an entire community. On the morning of August 1, 2018, Ellie's world went completely silent. Her mother Tam hadn't heard from her. Neither had her friends. She wasn't answering her calls nor replying to her messages. At first, people thought maybe she just needed a break. But that hope faded fast. Her car was still parked outside her apartment. Her purse, phone, and bank cards hadn't been used. There was no sign of a trip, no sign of movement, just the haunting stillness of an empty home. And Ellie was nowhere to be found. Tam called the police and officially reported her daughter missing. The community, still unaware of how serious this case would become, hoped it was just a misunderstanding, that maybe Ellie had gone to clear her head. But Tam knew better. Ellie would never disappear without telling someone. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. As the investigation began, one major question hung in the air. Had the police taken Ellie's warnings seriously enough before she vanished? Sadly, public records would later show that officers only spent minutes searching her home and the surrounding area after her initial stalking reports. No in-depth surveillance, no major follow-up, and worst of all, no early digital tracking of the numbers harassing her. And now she is gone. Initially, the case wasn't even classified as a stalking case, but as telecommunications harassment. The implications of that decision were massive. Had the stalking angle been taken more seriously, Maybe more aggressive tracking would have begun earlier. But instead, crucial time was lost. The police turned their focus to tracing the burner numbers Ellie had been receiving messages from. One in particular, the fake Nate number, had an area code of 213, tied to a temporary phone service online. Investigators contacted the service provider, trying to dig up any data that could lead to the user. Days turned into weeks. Volunteers helped search the surrounding woods, parks, and fields. Flyers with Ellie's photo were posted around town. Social media lit up with pleas for information. Then, on August 24, 2018, a terrible discovery brought the search to a tragic end. In a quiet field off Milliken Road in Liberty Township, just a short drive from Ellie's apartment, police found a body wrapped in a blanket, naked with a plastic bag over the head, and layers of tape binding the person inside. It was Ellie. The site was chillingly close to the home of Michael Strauss, just across the field. The case had gone from a missing person to a confirmed murder. And what detectives would find inside Michael's home would be darker than anyone expected. The news broke like a lightning strike across Westchester. Michael Strauss, 29 years old, had been arrested at 4 a.m., just hours after Ellie's body was found. It wasn't just suspicion. Police had evidence, and a lot of it. The crime scene where Ellie had been discovered was horrifying in its precision. She had been suffocated with a plastic bag and tape, then dumped in a field barely hidden. But what disturbed detectives the most wasn't just the state of the body, it was how close it was to Michael's house. This wasn't a random location. It was convenient, personal, intentional. When police raided Michael's home, they brought in everything: drones, helicopters, and digital forensics teams. What they uncovered would paint a picture of obsession, violence, and deep psychological disturbance. They obtained data from Google linking searches back to his IP address. The things Michael had been looking up in the weeks before Ellie's disappearance were horrifying. How long does a dead body smell? Missing girl in Hamilton. Survivor's Guide to Prison. How to delete photos from iCloud. Even worse, he had repeatedly searched for violent, non-consensual content involving women, terms so explicit the police chose not to release many of them publicly. Then came the videos. Michael had been secretly filming women jogging in public parks, following them with his phone from inside his car. He spoke in interviews later about how he felt a rush from it. It could be anywhere, he said casually. At a park, walking past someone. Whenever I see someone attractive. But the clearest connection to Ellie came from a photo found on his Maps app, a screenshot of the exact field where her body was discovered. He claimed it was for a movie script he was working on. Police weren't buying it. Then came the worst piece of physical evidence yet. In Michael's house, inside Ellie's art portfolio, investigators found her driver's license, a clump of her hair, and her pink necklace, the one she always wore. He had placed them together, almost like a twisted shrine. In a later interview, he called it a tribute. When police confronted him, Michael gave a story that was almost too bizarre to believe. He said Ellie had agreed to take part in a film project involving bondage scenes. According to him, she came over willingly with a blanket and let him zip-tie her wrists lightly. He claimed her death was an accident, caught on camera, during the filming. He said he watched the footage afterward, deleted it, and threw away the memory card. Police were certain that video never existed. What Michael described wasn't a film, it was a murder. In his basement, they found a bed with handcuffs still attached. Another piece of his fantasy life colliding with real horror. Michael was finally behind bars, but the fight for justice had just begun. And what happened in court would leave Ellie's loved ones shaken all over again. After Michael Strauss was arrested, the case moved swiftly into the courtroom, but justice as always wasn't simple. A grand jury indicted him on 9 charges, including aggravated murder, stalking, tampering with evidence, petty theft, and gross abuse of a corpse. The details were too grim to ignore. Still, even as the facts piled up, what Ellie's family and friends wanted most wasn't just punishment, it was answers. In court, Michael's defense team took an approach that many found shocking. They asked for Ellie's medical records and therapy notes, trying to suggest that her past struggles with anxiety and depression may have played a role in her death. They hinted that her medication could have been a factor. But the prosecutors shut it down immediately. They pointed to the autopsy results and the clear cause of death: asphyxiation from the plastic bag tightly secured around her head. Whatever Ellie had battled emotionally, it had nothing to do with how she died. The court was shown 800 pages of evidence: digital searches, video footage, crime scene photos, and interviews. And though Michael had at first tried to claim it was a film gone wrong, he finally admitted guilt to avoid a full trial. In exchange, 6 of the original charges were dropped, leading to a lighter sentence. In front of the courtroom, Michael gave a statement. "If there was any way to bring Ellie back, I would trade places with her in a second. I've failed Ellie, her family, myself, and society. I don't expect forgiveness." But Ellie's father, David, responded with words that carried all the weight of a grieving heart. "My God tells me to forgive. But he doesn't say when. And I don't know if I'll ever get there." Michael was sentenced to 17.5 years in prison, 15 years to life for murder, plus additional time for stalking and abuse of a corpse. His sentences would be served one after the other. With credit for time served, he would first be eligible for parole in 2036, and again in 2041. Many thought it was too lenient. But what hurt the most wasn't just the sentence, it was knowing that Ellie had done everything right. She reported the stalking. She gave names, emails, videos. And still, no one acted fast enough. That failure didn't go unnoticed. An internal review at the Westchester Police Department found that Officer James Thomas, who had taken Ellie's April 2018 stalking report, failed to properly record the information. He didn't link Michael's name to the case, didn't investigate her emails or video evidence, and never followed up. He was suspended without pay for 40 hours, but for Ellie's loved ones that was a small price for such a devastating oversight. And there was more. According to newly unsealed court records, Michael Strauss may not have stopped with Ellie. While in prison, he reportedly confessed to an inmate that Ellie wasn't his first victim. He described killing a woman named Shelley and dumping her body in a creek. Though police couldn't confirm this account, the pattern of behavior was deeply disturbing. In January 2018, just months before Ellie's death, a woman jogging was attacked by a man in a black hoodie and ski mask. He grabbed her by the neck and tried to drag her into the grass. She managed to fight him off and escape. The description? A match to Michael's usual stalking methods. To this day, police believe Michael may be connected to other crimes, but lack the evidence to press further charges. In the months that followed, Ellie's community tried to rebuild. On September 1st, her family held a service where everyone wore tie-dye, played music, and filled a scrapbook with photos, poems, and memories. It was a celebration of the vibrant life Ellie had lived, of her laughter, her quirks, her love for bright colors and wildflowers. The next day, friends and family released balloons into the sky, a symbolic letting go of pain, of fear, of everything Michael had tried to take from them. Some called it bittersweet. Others called it healing. And above the field where Ellie's body was found, something unexpected appeared, a rainbow stretching across the sky. Officers on the scene said it felt like Ellie was there one last time, saying thank you for being found, saying goodbye. In the end, Ellie's story became a heartbreaking reminder of how dangerous stalking really is. Every year in the U.S., over 13 million people are stalked. In more than 90% of female murder cases, stalking shows up beforehand. It's a warning signal that too often gets ignored. One officer later said, "Stalking is like watching a murder unfold, very slowly right in front of you." For Ellie's mom Tam, the pain never fades. "When I'm not distracted, when my mind isn't busy, she's there. Always." Ellie Weik left behind more than a story, she left a message. That even the brightest people can be targeted. That speaking up matters even when no one listens the first time. And that sometimes, even in the darkest moments, you can still find color, beauty, and light. Especially in a rainbow after the storm. Thank you for watching. Every victim deserves their story told. If you found this story shocking and heartbreaking, subscribe to Crime Uncovered and help keep their memory alive. What do you think about Ellie's murder? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep questioning everything.